We are live. Hi, everyone. I am Brandy Keeler, Assistant Director of Admissions at the College for Creative Studies, which is Detroit's premier art and design college. And welcome to another CCS Alumni Live. CCS Alumni Live is a weekly conversation where we talk with graduates from the College for Creative Studies about their journey from high school to career. And today we're going to be talking about an artist's journey on her journey to being a professional photographer. So I'm going to read our guest's bio for today, let a few folks join the live. And once our guest is here, we will add her to the live so we can get started with today's CCS Alumni Live. So today we are speaking with 2014 photography graduate Mar Manzanares. I almost said it right the first time I did it. Mar Manzanares. So she is the photography and production manager at Moosejaw Mountaineering. She is also half of Tall Boy Studios. I think I see the other half of Tall Boy Studios here on the live here. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I see our guest is here. So I'm going to keep reading the bio so we can start our conversation. So Mar Manzanares is the photography and production manager at Moosejaw Mountaineering. She is also half of Tall Boy Studios, which is a production company she created with fellow CCS alum Barton. Mar has a background in fashion, live music, and commercial photography. So we're going to be talking about a lot of different types of photography today. And some of the companies she's worked for include Walmart, LiveNation, Paxahau, Bogobrush, and most recently, Bomb Detroit. So I'm going to add Mar to the live so we can get started with our CCS Alumni Live conversation today. There you are. Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Your hair is awesome.
Thank you. It's a little outgrown right now, but I'm getting that taken care of next week.
I saw on your feed some really cool colors and styles. I was like, yes, I love it. I'm really excited to have you on CCS Alumni Live today.
Thank you. I'm excited too.
Yeah. So I want to, before we jump into, because I always have a billion questions to ask our guests, but before I start drilling you with questions, I want to let any of our guests who are tuning in live know that if you have questions for Mar about being a photographer, about shooting for commercial photography or fashion photography or live music photography, or being a CCS student or graduate, make sure you drop those questions either in the chat box or in the Q&A box at the bottom of your little Instagram screen. There's a little question mark down there so that we can get your questions answered live, okay? For those who are watching the recording, I'm sorry we can't answer it via recording. So let's get started. Mar, tell me a little bit about what you're currently working on today. What does it look like in your day-to-day work as a photographer right now?
Today I actually just got back from the studio at Moosejaw where we shot our series Test Lab, where we kind of take one of the products that we offer and we kind of do a series of tests with our scientists at Moosejaw, because we all know that all outdoor companies have scientists.
I didn't know
that. But we kind of do these tests, and it's like very funny. I don't know if people know Moosejaw, but Moosejaw is a very funny, outgoing company. It's not your regular like outdoor provider. It's we're like a lot more snarky, a lot more funny, a lot more like we try to have fun with what we're doing. I just got back from that, from doing some video with some of my coworkers, featuring our scientists, of course, and some of our guest talent, which is also some of our coworkers. It's a great team out there. That's kind of my day to day right now. I'm at my mom's since we're working from home, and my mom's is like right around the corner. I'm right over
Hi,
here.
Mom.
She's in the other room right now, but she's always here watching me work. Right now with the pandemic, it's a little different, but every day we would be in the office. We are fortunate to have our own studio at the premises in our HQ. But we're also getting geared up. We're about to leave to be out for 2 weeks in Oregon to do our bi-seasonal lifestyle photo shoot. So we're going to be in Bend, Oregon in a couple of weeks. We're going to shoot some snow stuff, some mountain stuff, some hiking stuff. Yeah, but that's kind of what it's looking for me right now. It's busy season. The year definitely is picked up now.
That's awesome. So that's cool because with the company you work at, like you said, you all have an in-house studio. So you have a designated place that you go to typically, you know, pandemic aside, go to work and shoot. But you also get to go out to location. I was looking at some of the Moosejaw stuff that was posted on your feed. I'm like, you're going to some beautiful places to shoot. How often would you say you are in office versus traveling for shoots or on location for shoots?
So, I'll tell you a little bit about my career at Moosejaw. I actually started as a studio photographer. I was actually brought in there by a recommendation from another CCS alum. So if that says anything, like keep connected with all of your peers, all of your classmates, because at some point something will come up and like somebody will think of you, and you obviously, like, word of mouth is like the best way to go when it comes to jobs. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that need jobs. But yeah, so I started as a studio photographer, and the people moved away and things happened. So, eventually I landed myself into the manager job. So, we do have these photo shoots like bi-yearly. We are out for like approximately 1 month out of the entire year. Yeah. We take 2 weeks to do, all of these activities. It's kind of, it gets rough, it's 2 weeks of work nonstop. And like, we are kind of like our own production. So like, I'm the producer in these photo shoots. So we have to take care of our talent. We have to arrange everything, not just taking photos, but like, arranging pickups, arranging flights, getting permits to our locations, a lot of research before we go. A lot of the times we don't have availability or the opportunity to go and pre-scout, so we kind of have to do a lot of e-scouting, especially right now with the pandemic, when we're like trying to only travel for essential reasons. It kind of gets a little complicated like that, so it's a lot of research, a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails for me. But my guys, Aaron, I think he's there, and Jim, and some of our other coworkers that join us occasionally, depending on the workload. They get to, I get to put everything together. I kind of get all of this stuff together, and then so that they can just get there and shoot. So we do like daily. We probably shoot about 10 days. We have breaks and everything, but we shoot like 10 days out of those 14 days. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty intense, but it's really fun. And like in the end, like you said, you see some of those photos. Like, I will like to say a lot of that work that was posted, it is my production work, but a lot of it is other people's like photos of like the eventual like catalog that we put together. Sometimes we hire other freelance photographers when we have specialized stuff like ski or snowboard or climbing. We try to get another person to like join us and like get some other, some other angle, someone else's view. So that's pretty cool. We get to kind of like open up a couple opportunities for people to join us. But yeah, that's it. The rest of the time, I mean, we are pretty much on set a lot because we as a retail company, we have lots of promos, and like I said, Moonshot is a very creative and funny company. So we do a lot of funny shoots. We do a lot of stuff in the studio. And, occasionally we just go to a park and like set up a tent and do some fun shots.
That's awesome. It sounds like as a producer, you juggle a lot as far as like not just managing the actual shoot, but like preparing for the shoot, like getting the content that you're going to shoot as far as like location and scouting, things like that. And I think it's interesting because I know a lot of students who I know, when they use the word producer, they're speaking specifically to film, right? Not necessarily to like all facets of photography. So it's really cool to hear about that. Now tell me this, because I'm learning as much as the students are on these. Within the photography industry, when you're working in agency for a company, is that a part of like the hierarchy of moving up? Do people stay photographers their entire time? Do people like jump in and out of positions? Like, what does that look like in an agency or in a company to work in studio as a photographer?
So, right now where I am is like an in-house team. So, I fell into this job because our old manager left. And I think at that point, I was like the one that had interest, and it was kind of like a rush situation there where like he just left and sorry, my battery is low. Yeah, so I kind of, you know, fell into this job after we had like kind of like an emergency situation, and it worked out great because I found out that for me, it's like really natural, and I've always kind of been like this when it comes to like producing my own photo shoots. I take care of a lot of the logistics, and it's really fun, and like I find myself really immersed in that kind of work. But it's like it would be impossible for me to do this job the way that I do it if I hadn't been a photographer first. So that I kind of have held the positions of like my team before, so I kind of have a better angle as to like what they need and how they need it and when they need it. So that really is a huge help when it comes to kind of like moving up to these other positions. And I wouldn't really call it moving up per se in my you know area. I guess in my team, I did like move into like the manager, so I do manage them. But I always tell my guys, I'm their glorified scheduler. I just want to make sure that they have everything they need ready when it's time, when we're on set, and like props, the set, the models, talent, anything that we need, that is ready for them to go. And that's really how productions really come together. But yeah, like if you as yourself as a photographer, as me, like I love shooting. I'm not necessarily like the tech person, or I'm not necessarily like, I find myself more in like the directorial position maybe. But more than anything, like, don't hesitate to like kind of run around like what it is to really become like a person in the industry. There are many jobs to be filled. There are many different positions. And if you don't think that you're like a lighting expert, you could very well just be somebody that, you know, manages the schedule, make sure that everything's on time, that everything's there ready when it needs to be.
Do you feel like as a person in the industry, knowing what you know about the various types of roles that are involved with photography and shooting, like, do you think there are any roles now that you know about that as like a high school student or younger, like you didn't know were a thing?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it all depends in like what is available where you are. Like for me, this honestly, like the position when I started at Moonshot really fell in my lap like that. Like I was really trying to get something else, and I really, you know, when I started at Moonshot, I'll admit it over here for whoever is watching from work. Hi, I didn't know anything. Like my husband, it was a Boy Scout. He knows everything about camping. But I had no idea. I come from a background of garment photography. Like that's what I had done before. And, you know, like kind of action photography, if you will, when it comes to like live music. So that really helped. But it honestly just comes down to where in like which places are willing to kind of like give you an in. And I'm very grateful that at Moosejaw, even though I had no idea what I was doing, I was like, I can't even put a tent together right now. They really kind of trusted me to like learn on the job. And that's very important. You know, I think that wherever you end up, you can always learn from where you are. And I mean, in my position, I really learned a lot from everybody that I was around.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you're doing some amazing things, leading your team at Moosejaw. And like I read in your bio, you've worked for a lot of companies doing a lot of different types of photography. So of the different types of photography you've done, you know, aside from, in addition to the work you've done at Moosejaw, you know, some of the live music stuff, some of the stuff for LiveNation or Paxahau or Bon Bon Bon. I saw that work on your feed, which is beautiful. Like, what's been your favorite project of all time to work on? Your favorite type of work to work on?
I love taking portraits of people. My passion project is Bev Love. I don't know if you guys know her.
Yes.
But Bev is a Detroit native. And Bev and I met like 5 years ago at this point. And Bev and I, you know, became friends through another friend. And you know, obviously the friendship is like first step, but I love creating work with her. We worked together for a long time doing all kinds of like glitzy, glamorous stuff. And that really is my jam. You know, I've done a couple of, you know, you mentioned my hair. I work with my hairstylist, Natasha Bronick, who owns co-owns Craft Salon in Royal Oak. And we've done a lot of hair photos and beauty photos along with some of their makeup artists. So that's kind of like my jam, really. I love working with women. I love working with women. I love women that are out there doing their thing. And so that's why it really calls to me to work with, some of my closest friends, Natasha, Bev. It's really, really awesome to be connected so close to people, to be able to bring what they want to show through the lens. And I'm always very proud and very happy when, they're like, oh my God, I love this photo. And that really, that's like creme de la creme for me.
I love it. And I was sharing some of the Bev Love photos on the preview for some of your work, just saying like, I think I shared like a lot more portraits than the outdoor stuff, because I'm like, these are stunning. They're beautiful. So it's clear that your passion shines through in the work that you do in that area. So cool. So I want to get in our imaginary time machine for a moment. And we've talked about all the amazing things you're doing now, but I want to sort of rewind back to when you were in high school as a up-and-coming artist and photographer. Were you doing photography in high school?
No, I don't know if anyone, it's not really anywhere out there super close to like the homepage of my Instagram, I guess. But if you read my bio on my website, I'm from Mexico, and I wasn't here until 2008. So I moved here in 2008, and I was in my last year of high school. It was the last half of my senior year, and I moved here. And brand new person in like a place that I didn't know anybody. And I was actually en route to become a lawyer.
Wow.
I was my entire life as a teen, I guess I've done more of that kind of. I was doing a lot of Model United Nations. I wanted to be an international law lawyer. So this was a total 360 for me. I was before CCS, I actually went to OCC for community college, because when I came here, I wasn't really familiar with how to apply and all the time that it really takes to apply to a college and get accepted. So when I came here, I went to community college. I just was taking some classes to see like how I could get into a different university. I really wanted to go to U of M. And then I ended up taking a couple of art classes for my associate's degree. And I decided that I didn't want to do that anymore. I decided that I wanted to go into photography. And so I applied to CCS, and that's kind of how that happened. I really had a very small portfolio that I kind of created in like the couple classes that I took at the other college. But I guess this is just kind of like to say, you can really be honing your skill from whenever, from when you were a little kid. If I could get back in the time machine and go back, I would do way more. I do have to say I did like all the schools that I went to. I'm kind of like an international mutt. I've moved around a couple of times. I lived in Brazil for a while too, because of my dad's job. And all the schools that I went to had a very intense like art kind of curriculum. Everybody had to do art. And so I have been immersed in that a lot. But it was not my original plan, and I'm honestly very surprised. And like every time I think about it, I'm like, wow, I did do it, and I did it, So like, don't get discouraged if you are just starting out now. I really like how throughout time, photography, we're doing this Instagram live on Instagram, and I think photography has been like really democratized in the last decade, just because of all the digital medium. And I just wouldn't discourage anybody to follow whatever they want to do. Like, I decided all of a sudden that I wanted to do photography, and I did it.
And you're doing amazing things. I think that's such a beautiful story. And it's interesting how common it is that people have one idea of what they want to do, and then there's something that sparks or changes, or they listen to that little whisper and decide to pivot. And I'm curious, because you had experience in high school with just generally, or other schools, general art curriculum. So it's not like you were a stranger to art. What was it that you experienced in those community college classes that made you say, oh no, I don't want to be a lawyer anymore? Like what was it that you experienced in those settings that really changed your mind to go after an art degree?
I met a lot of really awesome people when I was at OCC. I had some classes with people. I don't think that I ended up having classes with people that eventually went to CCS, but I do know that there are people that took those same classes at OCC that eventually transferred into CCS. But more than anything, it was just kind of like, I don't know, maybe it is that I was like in a brand new country, and I was like, it was after I left OCC, I was like, where do I go from here? And CCS was like, coming from a Latino family, my parents didn't necessarily want me to move away because I was thinking of going to Colombia. My husband's online right now, and he will know. We almost met actually at a Colombia tour, but instead we ended up meeting at CCS. So there's that little love story there. But I was thinking of going to Colombia, and in the end, since we were already new here, we didn't really want to do another move right away. So I ended up going to CCS, and honestly, like everybody that I still keep in contact with, both like friends and coworkers, people that I've hired to work with me too for Moosejaw and Walmart. We still keep in contact. So more than anything, like I said at the beginning, it's just meeting a lot of people and keeping in contact with them, and opportunities always arise.
That's awesome. I also want to give a shout out to CCS Love. I love when people find their career and their spouse. You get a 2-for-1.
Yeah, and he works there.
Yes, John, right?
Yeah,
one of our favorites here. That's so awesome. That's so cool. How did you guys meet at CCS? Did you guys have a class together?
So back to the transferring into CCS, I did a ton of credits at OCC, and not all of them transferred. And when it came time to figure out what I was going to do with my career at CCS, I kind of ended up having the last 2 years of my degree at CCS be really empty. Like I would only have my senior studio. And so kind of talking to a couple different people and some of our classmates, I decided to pick up an entertainment arts minor. I think, I don't know how the departments are organized now, but at that point it was entertainment arts live action film. Shout out to Scott Northrup. I went to Scott Northrup University.
He's amazing.
But I decided to pick up a minor in entertainment arts to, it was at the time when we were like, okay, if you're a photographer, you should also know some video at least, because, you want to have it all in the bag. And so I decided to pick up that minor, and I had my first class was Scott Northrup's experimental video. Yep. And that's where I met John. That's where I met Jeff, who's also there somewhere. I see him. That's where we met, and he offered to pose for some of my assignments, and the rest is history.
Aw, I love it. And you not only found your spouse and your career, but you also have your own venture that you're launching, right? Your own photography production studio, and that's with another CCS alum. How did that come to be?
So Aaron is actually probably online still too, but Aaron and I were already friends from before. Aaron actually has taken over 2 of my jobs before, when I was working for LiveNation, and then I moved over to Moosejaw. I kind of put it out there like, hey, does anybody want this job? I'm trying to find somebody to replace me. And Aaron actually replaced me at St. Andrews. And then when I was trying to build up my team at Moosejaw too, he also kind of filled in a role there. So we've been teammates for almost 2 years, and we work out great. We kind of bring a couple different aspects of the business together. So I do most of the production. Aaron does a lot of the tech. We kind of complement each other. Aaron's a little bit younger than me, but he, the experience that I have dealing with clients, because I've done freelance for a long time, I kind of bring that, and Aaron, brings a lot of the tech stuff that I'm not necessarily like the most expert on. Our first client was Bon Bon Bon, and we're still working with them a little bit. We're planning some other stuff, but we're trying to get our own thing going so that we can, kind of take on some different kinds of clients that we've thought about, and just to, kind of start seeing what that brings, and hopefully it'll grow.
I hope so too, because the work that you all have already done with Bon Bon Bon, it's amazing. And just knowing the level of talent you both have together, I can imagine that it would skyrocket. That'd be so awesome. I was checking out some of his work earlier too. I'm like, they both are really strong.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Shout out to Aaron. I'll take like this short moment here. Aaron is also moving on from our team at Moosejaw. So if you are interested in a job at Moosejaw, please let me know, because I am looking for someone, and I'm always open to anybody that has graduated or is close to graduating from CCS. Part of what really has been really great about me being in this position is opening up some of those opportunities for people that I know out of like my alma mater. And I know what program you're coming from, so
you have a good idea of what you're going to get.
I have a good idea of what so I'm always accepting any kind of proposals, anything like that. But yeah, Aaron and I are we're really good friends. We've been friends for a long time now, and of course that helps, but more than anything, it's just like the work ethic and the complementary situation there. You don't both have to be good at everything. You can be really good at something, and honestly, that's what I would say. Focus on something that you can bring to the table. You don't have to be good at everything. Jack of all trades, master of none, right? So be a master of one, so that you can really come to the table and be like, listen, this is what I'm bringing to the table, and this is how I will help with whatever production you're involved with.
That's awesome advice. Awesome advice. Speaking of advice, I want to take a break to see if anyone in our live here has questions. I know people jump in and out. I know a ton of people also watch our recordings, but for anybody who's with us live here, if you have questions for Mar about photography, commercial photography, or fashion photography, or live event photography, or coming to CCS, transferring, any questions you have that you want answered live, now is the time to drop those questions in the bottom. And as they are asked, I'll make sure to pop them up so that we can get them answered. But while we're waiting for questions from our audience, I know you talked a lot about some of the different things that you've gained from CCS, but what would you say is the one thing you learned from CCS that has really impacted your overall journey as a creative person?
So I'm sure that this won't be the first time that somebody mentions this, but the workload. I know that it's super difficult. Like, we all went through it. I will never forget being at CCS in the middle of the night trying to map my photos for critique the next day, and thinking like, what am I doing here at 2 a.m. doing this? It's crazy. That really puts you in a really competitive position when it comes to these jobs. Fortunately and unfortunately, our jobs are fast-paced. Especially in these times, kind of what I'm telling you about photography being democratized. Everybody can pick up their iPhone 12 now, and take a really nice photo. And to people that are not necessarily, involved with photography or have any knowledge of what it really takes to have a really great photo, it's very easy for other people to get hired above you if they, if you just go on Instagram and find their profile and you're like, these photos are great. But when it comes to jobs, when it comes to gigs, the fast turnarounds, the very intense, short times that you get to work on some of these productions, it really prepares you for what's out there. I would never say my job is easy. Even as an in-house team, we have a lot of things that we have to deal with, and a lot of them, especially with my job right now, being part of a retail team, things change constantly, and you have to be ready. You might be shooting a jacket, and then all of a sudden it's out of stock, and you have to shoot another one because you don't have any more of those. So it really prepared me, I would never say like I don't struggle because everybody does, you know, we all have our ups and downs, and especially this year with the pandemic, it's been really, really difficult to like get accustomed to like a new way of working. But really, I feel like sometimes people crumble under the pressure, and CCS is where you get really your training for that kind of stuff. You know, if you are juggling 6 different projects that you got to finish by the end of the month, and then also go through critique, and also, like I said, you got to like mat them and frame them. It's crazy. But that will come in so handy when it comes to like real work, you know, real gigs. These jobs are demanding in the current you know, work area. It's just everybody, the competition is fierce, and you really got to be on top of your game.
I think that's a great insight too, because I know a lot of students who, you know, like you mentioned, everyone has access to an iPhone, who are like, oh yeah, I already work as a photographer. I shoot portraits for my friends, or I do events. And, you know, they have strong portfolios, but the level of time, the amount of time, the level of work that it takes for them to get one good shot, like get that special shot that just so happens to work, versus a photographer who understands, you know, lighting, understands the technology, understands all of that thing, those things, they're able to get multiple things that can work, right? And so I can imagine that would be, you know, a level of shell shock for a student who, you know, a student, or, you know, anyone out there in the world who's just been experimenting with photography, having fun and getting some luck, versus, okay, now I'm on a timeline. Now I have demands. Now there's a specific image that a client wants. That's different, right? And so I can imagine
it's different,
you know,
and it's different. And also I would add too, and I'll shout out Scott Northrup again, just because he was my mentor during my senior year too. I think that going back to 1, CCS, and 2, your peers and those critiques, when I took up my video minor at CCS, I got to see things a little differently from a different perspective. I got to meet different people, and that really also comes in handy when, you know, these pivots from clients aren't just time-based. They're also, and I guess it's involved in there too, when you have all these different perspectives that you haven't had access to, that you have had time to explore for different classes. When it comes time to problem solve, it's way different. You have a lot of different avenues that you can take. And, you know, when it comes to problem solving for your job, that really comes in handy to be able to kind of like think outside the box and think of different things that you can do, different techniques, different equipment that you can use to make something look very professional and very thought through when you are really like, you know, short for time, or, you know, any other resource. But yeah,
I hadn't even thought of that perspective.
I'm a Scott Northrup stan.
He's amazing. He's doing a lot of great work with both our entertainment arts and our photography program now at CCS. But that makes a lot of sense. That it wouldn't just be like, you know, the time, but like how to work with different types of people, how to work with different types of perspectives, how to work with different types of equipment. I think the collaborative nature of an art environment and the preparation that you have to do different types of work from this environment prepares you for, like you just said, prepares you for that. Because I can imagine, like you mentioned earlier, like all the people that you're directing, you've done that type of work. You know what I'm saying? You've been you know, you've had to do that work. So it's easier for you to guide people on that versus, you know, someone trying to do your role and they've only had, you know, the experience of working for themselves, shooting for Instagram, you know, for the feed. It's completely different.
For the feed.
I never even thought of it. Yeah. So I see a question came in from the admissions counselor of the stars, our glorious Sabrina Nelson. She asks, what do you wish someone said to you before you started CCS?
What do I wish someone said to me? I don't know. I guess that it was actually going to take me the 4 years to get out.
That's a big
at the beginning when I transferred. You know, there was gonna kind of be like a way when it came down to it. There was a way for me to kind of get out a little bit earlier, because I did do my 2 years at community college first, and then I moved over. And at first the thought was that I was going to be able to get out in like 2.5 years more to kind of like end up at 4.5. But I guess I wish that somebody told me that it was really going to be worth it to stay the 4 years, because I don't think that I would have had the same kind of experience if I had kind of like crushed my stuff into like the 2.5 years. Like I said, I keep mentioning Scott, and I will also mention Jerome Burns, who is also a CCS staple. Also, like my life mentor, honestly. When my parents weren't here in Michigan at the time, in the US, and I was at CCS, Jerome was my dad. But yeah, I wish that I wish that somebody would have told me that it really, you know, when I made that decision, it was kind of like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll do it. But I wish that somebody at that point would have like really been like, it's going to be worth it, because it was worth it. I was able to do, kind of get my feet wet into video. I'm able now, you know, I'm not just because I'm married to another videographer, but I am able to really get into editing and directing video because I have that experience, and that really helped me out in terms of career. You know, I really wouldn't be able to be the manager of my team if it wasn't because of that video experience. Awesome. So yeah, I wish somebody was like, it's going to be worth it. Don't worry. Because it took me a long time to get out, you know. I didn't really.
I think that's a huge thing for transfer students. Yeah, I think that's a big thing for transfer students to hear, because I know now we definitely make sure students know, like, even if you come with associates, you may have 4 years, because our curriculum is such that you have studios for 4 years. But I think that perspective of like, it's worth it, it's helpful for growing your skill sets. It's not just like busy work for 4 years. I think that's helpful perspective maybe for some transfer students to hear, similar to like what we were just talking about for photographers who may just be out there, you know, learning on their own, like what you gain in that 4 years of time, growing those skills, making those connections, like that's the benefit of, you know, going for that amount of time. And I know a lot of students who are like, I've had students who are like, oh man, like, you know, I've already spent 2 years. You're telling me I need to do another 4. Like, I'm going to be old by the time. And I'm like, no, like, like that's not true at all.
It's never too late to start. It's never too late to start. And really, you know, sometimes I think about it. Sometimes I'm like, man, I should have been at this job at, you know, whatever, 20 something. But really, you know, everything comes at the time that it's gotta. So if you have the chance, I would say pick up a minor. Honestly, it's so worth it. And for me, it really changed the way that I think of my work and the way that I kind of go through like these productions. It really gives you a different perspective.
That's awesome advice, awesome insight, and from somebody who's doing amazing work in their career. Mar, you've been such an amazing guest with so many insights and wisdom to share with our students, especially being an international student. I think you're our first international Alumni Live, so I really appreciate you sharing your perspective, just, you know, from high school all the way to the success that you have today. I appreciate you. Oh no, Mar froze. All right. I know earlier on the call, Mar's phone may have been dying. So I don't know if it actually died on us or not. Yeah, I think her phone may have died because it was dying earlier in the call. But I'm going to say this on recording for Mar and also send it to her separately. Thank you so much for your insight and your wisdom that you shared in today's CCS Alumni Live. I know I learned a lot about the photography industry, as well as, you know, ways to prepare for this journey and the various ways that it can look for our students. And I hope everyone who's tuned in live enjoyed our conversation today. Make sure you tune in next week for our upcoming CCS Alumni Live. We do these every week. I never have my date prepared for the next one, but I'm going to get there eventually. So next week, our CCS Alumni Live is, let me find the date. You guys may not find it in time. But pro tip, if you're subscribed to our email list as a student, you get the update for our schedule for our weekly CCS Alumni Lives ahead of time. but we let, you know, folks know about 24 hours beforehand who aren't on our email list. Oh, here it is. Okay, so Tuesday, March 2nd, we're talking with Julie Rudineski about her journey from high school to career. We'll be talking about interior design paths. So if you have a passion for spaces and all things ephemeral and how they impact users of spaces, definitely come and check out our CCS Alumni Live next week. I want to thank all of you who tuned in live, all you watching the recording. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.